living. Gifts to these are abundantly fruitful, as are seeds sown in a fertile field. The story of Uttara's mother. After the passing away of the teacher, when the first great council was going on, the venerable elder monk Mahakakayana, with 12 monks, was in a certain forest lodge nearby Kosambi. To him came Uttara, son of and successor to King Adena's privy councillor, seeking, with woodworkers, timber for repairs. Then he was taught Dharma by the elder. Him thereafter Uttara often entertained and built him a cell settlement. But Uttara's mother grudged his gifts. She said, "Whatever food and drink you give in this manner, without my consent, to recluses, may that become blood in your other world." Nevertheless, on the day of dedication of the monastery, she permitted a bunch of peacock tail feathers to be given. At her death, she was reborn as a petty, and in return for her donation of a bunch of peacock tail feathers, her hair was black, glossy, curly, fine and long. Whenever she went down, thinking, "I shall drink water of the Ganga river," then the river became full of blood. After she had wandered about for 55 years, overcome by hunger and thirst, she saw one day the elder Kankarevata sitting for his midday rest on the bank of the Ganga river. And this dialogue ensued after the redactor's 2 verses. As a monk had gone to his noonday rest and was seated upon the bank of the Ganga river, he was approached by a petty of horrid appearance and of timid ayuk. Her hair was very long and hung down to the ground. Clothed with her tresses, she thus addressed the ascetic. The petty. "It is 55 years since I died. I know neither food nor drinking water. Give me some water, reverend sir. I am thirsty for a drink." Monk. "Here is the Ganga river with its cool waters. It flows from the Himalaya. Take some from it and drink. Why do you ask me for water?" The petty. "Reverend sir, if I myself take water from the Ganga river, it turns into blood. Therefore I beseech you for water." Monk. Now what offense was committed with body, speech, and mind? In consequence of what deed does the Ganga river at your touch become blood? The petty. "Reverend sir, my son Uttara was a believing layman, and he, against my will, gave to recluses clothing, bowl food, medicine and dwelling. Moved by avarice I reviled him, saying, I whatsoever against my will you give to recluses, clothing, bowl food, medicine and dwelling. May that, O Uttara, become blood for you in the other world. As a result of that deed, the Ganga river becomes blood at my touch." Then the venerable Ravata gave water to the order of monks in the name of the petty. He went to his round for alms, and having taken food, he gave it to the monks. Then he took some rags from a rubbish heap, and having cleansed and sprinkled them and having made bark clothes, he gave it to the monks. Because of this, the petty attained div bliss and told this to the elder and showed him the deva happiness she had obtained. The story of the thread. In a certain village near Savatthi, 700 years before our teacher arose, a certain youth in the service of a lone Buddha died on his wedding day from snakebite. In his life he had not done many deeds of merit, yet because of his affection for his bride he was reborn as a Manshanpita, in potency and splendor. Wishing to have his maiden in his mansion, and seeing a lone Buddha sewing robes, he approached him in human form and said, "Venerable sir, are you in need of thread?" The answer was, "Lay disciple, we are busy making robes." Pointing to the bereaved bride's house, the deva said, "You can ask for thread in that house." He did so and was given a ball of thread by the maiden. The deva, still as earthman, got the girl's mother to let him stay a few days and filled all the vesayas in the house with money. Then with the girl he departed to his mansion. The mother gave much of the money to kin and poor wayfarers. Dying she said, "If my daughter comes back, show her this money." After years our Lord Buddha was born in the world and came to Savatthi. Then that woman still living with the Deva begged him to take her back, saying, I, in the past, gave to a monk who had renounced the world at his approach, some thread. As a result, abundant blessings fall to my lot, and myriads of garments are produced for me. The mansion is covered over with flowers and is a delight. It is variously adorned, and manservants and handmaidens are in attendance. So I enjoy it, and I clothe myself, nor does the abundant wealth at any time come to an end. As a reward for just one deed, joy and happiness are here obtained. And I, when I have gone once more to the world of men, will perform good deeds. Lead me there, my Lord. When the spirit heard her, out of pity for her whom he loved, he was unwilling to go. So he said, It is 700 years ago that you came here. You will become both decrepit and old there, and all your relatives, as I know, are dead. What will you do, if you have gone from here to that place? She, not believing him, spoke again. Just 7 years ago I came here and have enjoyed heavenly bliss. And I, when I have gone once more to the world of men, will perform good deeds. Lead me there, my Lord. Then, without more ado, he took her by the arm, and leading her back as a very tottering and aged woman, he said, Tell also the other people who have come there, do good works, then happiness will be secured. When that woman came to the abode of her kinsman, she made herself known unto them. She took the money which they gave back to her, and bestowing gifts upon recluses and Brahmins, she advised those who were coming and going to her. It has been seen by me that Peters, through not performing a good deed, come to grief. Likewise do human beings. By doing an act yielding happiness, both devas and men are race persisting in happiness. The story of the Kanamunda Petty. While the teacher was living at Savatthi, he told this story. Once upon a time, it is said, in the days of the Buddha Kassapa, there lived in Kapila a certain lay disciple, a convert, who was of the same faith with 500 lay disciples and given to the pursuit of meritorious deeds such as planting of pleasure groves, building bridges, making paths and other useful works. He had a monastery built for the monks and used to go there with them from time to time. Their wives, who too were in mutual concord, would go to the monastery with garlands, perfumes, ointments, resting on the way in parks and hostels. Then one day, some rogues who were sitting down together in the hostel of a certain lady, while those women were resting there, saw their great beauty and became enamored. Knowing them to be good, they started a conversation. Who is able to perform a breach of morality with even one of them? Thereupon one said, I am. Saying, Let us make with him a wager for 1,000, they made the bet, adding, If you succeed, we must give you the 1,000. If not, you must give them to us. With the desire to win and in fear of losing. He was reciting with many tricks while the women were at the hostel, playing a 7-stringed, sweetened lute, and singing love songs, and he brought a certain woman among them to break the moral law, making those rogues lose the 1,000. Beaten by him, they told the affair to her husband, who did not believe it, but asked her, Are you of such a sort as those men have said? She denied, saying, I do not know such a thing. Since he did not trust her, she pointed to a dog which was standing nearby, and took an oath. If such a wicked deed was done by me, may this crop-eared black dog devour me, when I am reborn here or there. Moreover, when the other women, who knew she had transgressed, were questioned, Did this woman do such a wicked act, or did she not do it? They falsely swore, If we know, may we become her slaves in this or that rebirth. Then that adulteress, consumed by remorse for her sin, wasted away and died. She was reborn as a mansion petty on the shore of Lake Kanamunda, one of the 7 great lakes in the Himalaya, king of mountains. Furthermore, there came into being on all sides of the mansion a lotus pond suitable for enjoyment. When the other women died, in consequence of the oath they had taken, they became her slaves. In that place, on account of the good deeds performed in her previous existence, she enjoyed heavenly bliss during the daytime. But at midnight, urged on by the force of her evil deeds, she arose from her bed and went to the bank of the lotus pond, being there devoured by a great dog. Thereafter she immediately reappeared with her former beauty, and having mounted to her mansion, lay down upon her couch. The other women, however, endured with difficulty the continual serfdom to her. Thus 550 years passed by, and since they were enjoying deva bliss without their husbands, they began to long for them. Now there was at that place a river which issued from Lake Kanamunda and through a cleft in the mountain flowed into the Ganga river. Near it was a park with mango trees that bore deva fruit, with breadfruit trees, and others. Thus they thought, "Come now, we will throw these mangoes into the river." Thus, indeed, having seen the fruit floating down, some man or other may come here to get the mangoes. Then we shall enjoy ourselves with them. They did so. Now as regards the mangoes cast adrift, ascetics got some. Foresters, others. And others stuck to the bank. One, however, reached the stream of the Ganga river and in the course of time got as far as Benares. At that time, the king of Benares was bathing in the Ganga river in water surrounded by a copper net. Then that mango which had been carried down came that way and was caught in the copper net. When the king's bodyguard found the large deva mango excellent in color, smell, and taste, they brought it to him. As an experiment, the king took a piece of it and gave it to a notorious robber who had been placed in jail. When he had eaten it, he said, "Your Majesty, I have never before eaten such a mango. I think this is a deva mango." The king gave him another slice. After he had eaten that, his wrinkled skin and grey hair left him. He became very handsome and, as it were, restored to youth. When the king saw that, he was full of wonder, ate of the mango and also received splendor in his body, he asked, "Where are such mangoes found?" His men replied, "It is said, Your Majesty, in the Himalaya, king of mountains. Is it possible to procure them? Your Majesty, the foresters know that." The king sent for the foresters, gave to a poor forester 1,000 coins, and sent him away, saying, "Go, quickly bring me the mango fruit." That one then went up the Ganga river to Lake Kanamunda. When he had gone beyond the road of men, he saw in succession 3 ascetics who directed him. The third advised him, "Leave this great Ganga river. Follow that small river, going upstream until you see a fissure in the mountain. Then you must enter there at night with a firebrand. Since this river does not flow by night, you can travel that way." He did so, and at sunrise he reached a region, where was a very delightful mango grove. Then when those women, who were without husbands, saw him coming even from afar, they ran up to him, saying, "That man belongs to me, that man belongs to me." Now he had not done the good works which were suitable for enjoying deva bliss with them in that place. So at the mere sight of them, he was frightened and fled with a shout. Upon reaching Benares, he told the king what had happened. When the king heard that, there was aroused in him a desire to see those women and to enjoy the mangoes. So he entrusted the kingdom to his privy councillors, and on the pretext of going hunting, he took his bow and quiver and sword, and with a few men, he set out as the forester told him. After a few yojanas distant, he left those men and went on with just the forester. Him too, after a while, he sent back. At sunrise he reached the mango grove. Then, when those women saw him as a young reborn son of a deva, and went out to meet him, they knew that he was a king, and took him up into the mansion. They gave him deva food and waited on him according to his wishes. Then, after 150 years had passed by, the king rose at midnight, and saw the transgressing Peti going to the shore of the lotus pond. Curious, he followed her. Then he saw that she was devoured by a dog upon her arrival there. For 3 days he considered, not knowing what to make of it, then he shot the dog with a sharp arrow. Having thus deprived it of life and having immersed the woman in the lotus pond, he thereupon saw her with her former beauty restored. He then asked her what had happened to her. Here are staircase landings of gold, resting upon the golden sands. There are beautiful sweet-smelling lilies, a delight to the heart. Various trees form a canopy over the waters, breezes fragrant with different scents blow over them. The ponds are covered with many pink lotuses and bedecked with the white lotuses. Stirred by the wind, the delightful pools emit a pleasant odor. They resound with the noise of swans and herons. They are resonant with the sound of ruddy geese. Filled with diverse swarms of birds and resounding with a multitude of various songs, the trees yield diverse kinds of fruit, the forests produce manifold flowers. Such a city as this is not found among men. You have many palaces built of gold and silver, brightly gleaming, the 4 regions all are radiant. You have these 500 maidservants that wait upon you. They are wearing armlets of shells and are adorned with golden garments. You have many beds made of gold and silver. They are overspread with the skins of Kadali antelope. They are all ready and are covered with woolen blankets. When you lie down upon them, you are richly endowed with all pleasure. Yet when midnight has arrived, you get up and go out. When you have come to the pleasure garden on all sides of the lotus pond. Upon its bank you stand, fair one, upon the green turf. Then a dog with cropped ears devours you, limb after limb. When you are devoured and made a chain of bones, you plunge into the lotus pool, where your body becomes just as before. Then with a complete body, very handsome, beautiful to behold, arrayed in your clothes, you come into my presence. Now what wicked deed was committed by body, speech, and mind? As a punishment of what sin does the crop-eared dog devour your body, one part after the other? When she was thus asked by the king, the Peti told him her story. In Kapila was a householder, a pious layman. His wife was a wicked adulteress. Since I was unchaste, my husband thus addressed me. It is not fitting or proper that you are unfaithful to me. Then I falsely uttered a terrible oath. I do not deceive you with my body or in thought. But if I trespass with my person or my mind, then may that crop-eared dog devour me, limb after limb. The penalty for both that deed and the falsehood I have been enduring for 700 years. Ever since that time the crop-eared dog has been devouring me, limb after limb. Thus she spoke. Then in 2 stanzas she praised the favor he had done her. Lord, you are very powerful. For my sake you have come here. Released from the crop-eared one, I am free from sorrow and without fear from any source. Lord, I honor you and beseech you saluting. Take advantage of non-human pleasures. Lord, with me enjoy yourself. Thereupon the king, tired of living there, made known his intention of leaving and spoke the final stanza. I have partaken of Deva delights and had my joy with you. Now, fair one, I pray you, quickly take me back. Then that mansion Peti, having heard the words of the king, was unable to endure a separation. She was perplexed in her heart with grief and sorrow, and her body was trembling. Even though she appealed to him with various means, she was not able to induce him to remain there. She brought the king with many costly gems to his city and took him up to his palace. Then with weeping and lamentation, she returned straightway to her own abode. Now, when the king saw that, he was greatly moved, and having performed meritorious works in gifts and other ways, he became destined for heaven. Then, when our Lord Buddha had been born in the world, and came in the course of time to dwell in Savatthi, the Venerable Mahamoggallana one day on his wanderings in the mountains saw that lady with her retinue and asked her what deed she had committed. She told him all and he told the incident to the Lord Buddha. The story of UBBARI. While the teacher was staying at Jetavana, he told this story. At Savatthi the husband of a lay disciple died. She went in her grief to the cemetery and wept. When the Lord Buddha saw that she had attained the condition for the fruit of the path, moved by pity, he went lo her house and asked why she was grieving. Indeed, Lord Buddha, I mourn because of separation from one dear to me. Then the Lord Buddha told a story. Once upon a time, in the Pancala country, in the city of Kapila, there was a king whose name was CuIani Brahmadatta, given to deeds beneficial lo his people. Without disturbing the 10 norms of kingship, once upon a time wishing to hear what they were saying in his domain, he assumed the disguise of a tailor and without any attendant, left the city. As he traveled from village to village and from district to district, he found the whole land without thieves and without oppression, the people on friendly terms and dwelling, with their houses open. With fresh joy he set out on his return, and in a certain town entered the house of a poor widow. When she saw him, she said, "Now, who are you, sir? From where have you come?" He replied, "My good woman, I am a tailor. I am going around, doing needlework for a wage. If you have any sewing, give me both clothes and headtire, and I will make for you." She then said, "We have no work to be done in either clothes or headtire. Do it for others, sir." While he was staying there for a few days, he saw her daughter, who was endowed with the mark of future good fortune and merit, and he said to the mother, "If she is not married to anyone, give her to me. I am able to make a living for you with comfort." She gave him the girl. Having remained with her for a few days, he gave her 1,000 kahapanas and said, "I shall return within just a few days. My dear, do not fret." Thereupon he went to his own city. Having had constructed and adorned a level road between the city and that village, he went there with great pomp. After he had settled a large sum of money upon the girl and had her bathed in vessels of gold and silver, he had her named UBBARI and made her queen consort. He gave the village to her relatives and then took her to the city with great pomp. Living happily with her, he enjoyed a successful reign and passed away. UBBARI's grief thereupon is thus told by the redactors. There was a king, Brahmadatta, lord of the charioteers of the Pancalas. Then after the lapse of some days and nights, the sovereign fulfilled his time. UBBARI, his wife, went to his funeral pyre and lamented. Although she did not see Brahmadatta, she lamented, "O Brahmadatta." A rishi arrived there, a holy man accomplished in righteous conduct, and on that occasion he asked those who had duly assembled there, "Whose funeral pyre is this over which are wafted various aromas? Whose wife is this that mourns for her husband who is gone far away from here? Although she does not see Brahmadatta, she wails, O Brahmadatta." And they who were there thereon explained, "Venerable sir, she is the wife of Brahmadatta. Good fortune to you and to Brahmadatta." This is his funeral pyre over which are wafted various aromas. This is his wife who is mourning for her spouse gone far from here. Although she does not see Brahmadatta, she laments, O Brahmadatta. Single quote. The ascetic to UBBARI. 86,000 men bearing the name Brahmadatta have been burnt in this cemetery. For which one of these are you in sorrow? UBBARI. Reverend Sir, I mourn for him who was the king, the son of Khuddhaka, the lord of the charioteers of the Pancalas, my husband who granted me every wish. The ascetic. Verily all who have the name of Brahmadatta were kings. All were the sons of Khuddhaka, the chiefs of the charioteers of the Pancalas. For all in successive order you were the queen consort. Why do you neglect your former husbands and bewail only the last one? UBBARI. Myself so long being woman, sir, is it of my womanhood in the course of things that you say so much? The ascetic. You were a woman, you have been a man, as a beast also you were born. Thus this does not appear as limit to what has been. UBBARI. Verily me, glowing, being like a fire over which ghee had been poured, you sprinkled, as it were, with water. Now I put an end to all my suffering. Verily you drew from me the dart that grief rooted in my heart, you who dispelled from me, overcome with sorrow, the mourning for my husband. So I now am dart drawn, am become cool. I do not mourn, I do not weep, having heard you, great seer. In portraying UBBARI's attainment, the teacher spoke 4 stanzas. When she had heard these words of his, the admirable utterance of the recluse, she taking bowl and robe, went forth into the homeless state. And she, leaving house and home and going forth into the houseless state, cultivated a mind of amity in order to be reborn in Brahma's world. She wandered from village to village, to towns and royal cities. Boravella is the name of the village where she ended her days. After she had cultivated heart of amity for the sake of being reborn in Brahma's world and had put away the thoughts of a woman, she became a denizen of the world of the Brahmas.